Thing, best listen. I feel like it's summertime. I've already shifted my mind to summertime. And when it's summertime, there's one thing that's always on the playlist, and that is country music. Now, I know some of that drives you a little crazy. Some of y'all, you don't want to hear any country music. But for me, summertime, with a Luke Bryan, Carrie Underwood, and some Chris Stapleton on the playlist, and it feels exactly like summertime. So my best listen this week goes to country music. Second thing, best thing I've seen. Best thing I've seen was ESPN, the Ocho this past weekend. Now, if you don't know what that is, they do a bunch of random sports on ESPN, and it's just awesome. That's the only thing I can say. It might be actually it might be pathetic. I don't know. I sit there and I watch people playing Tetris World Championships on TV. I watch a guy deadlift over 1,100 pounds. And there's a lot of other fantastic sports I didn't know existed that I sit there and got sucked into the TV this week. So my best watch this week was ESPN, the Ocho. Third thing, this is usually the spot we do worst week and who's having the worst week. But this week we're going to switch it up and we're going to do best week. And the best week this week goes out to all you moms. That's right, it's Mother's Day this weekend. If you didn't know that, now would be an appropriate time to go get a gift, go get a card. You still got some time. But best week goes out to all you moms out there. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope everybody celebrates you. We celebrate you for everything you've done. Also, I'd like to give a special shout out to my mom. Happy Mother's Day. And also a close friend of mine, his mother, Jeff. Happy Mother's Day to your mother as well. That does it for our top 3 for the week. Today I want to take a few minutes and talk about a story that most of you know. Whether you've been in church your whole life, whether you just started attending church, or maybe you don't even go to church, but you've probably heard this story. And it's in John chapter 8, and it's a story about Jesus, and the Pharisees bring this woman to Jesus. And what's happened is this woman was caught in the act of adultery. And the Pharisees bring her to Jesus, and they want her stoned to death. And they're demanding an answer from Jesus. They want the okay for Jesus to say, yes, stone her for her sins. And what happens is interesting. There's a lot of sermons, there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of theories wrote about what happens next. And what happens next is Jesus bends down and he starts writing in the dirt. And he continues to do this as the Pharisees and people, they're basically demanding an answer from Jesus. They want some kind of response. And eventually what happens is Jesus stands up and he says, if any of you do not have any sin, then feel free to throw the first stone. And what happens when he says this is interesting. Over the next few moments, people begin to leave, and they leave that woman there. And they stop demanding an answer from Jesus. Until eventually it's just Jesus and the woman. And then Jesus has a conversation with her. And he tells her, I do not condemn you. Please go on your way. And there's 2 interesting things about this story that stick out. The first thing is the obvious thing that we've all heard in the sermon, we've all read about, even probably talked about, maybe even taught on this. And that's the whole thing about judging. Judging someone. Judging someone for their actions, even though you have your own sins and your own actions. And basically not to do that. One of my favorite TV shows is Survivor. It is my dream to be on that show. I love sitting around watching that show. And one of the things I love about that show is thinking about what I would do in situations. And it's also one of those shows when I watch, I'm very judgmental of the decisions people make on that show. You know, it's pretty easy to sit back on my couch, eating snacks, seeing everybody's moves behind the scenes, and then criticizing other people's decisions and moves and wondering what the heck are they doing. When in reality, those people are hungry, they're tired, they have no idea what the person next to them is doing. Survivor is this great game, a great social experiment. It's been over the years of how people react and what happens in that scenario. But it's funny, I sit back on my couch and I just judge. And I go, why did you make that move? Or why didn't you team up with this person? Or, what are you doing? And I think that's how we are sometimes in life. That's just not me sitting on a couch in Survivor. Sometimes that's me just going out in public. In my head, I think, why is that person doing that? Or why did that person say that? Or why did that person go there? I have all these judgmental thoughts. And while some of that's human nature, it's a very dangerous human nature if we do not recognize it and we continue to make that a habit of our own. Now, I'll be the first person to tell you, I do judge, but I try to be aware of those times I am, and those times I'm being judgmental, because it's dangerous. And that's basically what Jesus was doing in that story. He's reminding those people that's a dangerous thing. You've got your own stuff you need to deal with. Don't be worried about somebody else's stuff. And as we come out of quarantine, as things start to open back up, it's a good thought to keep in the back of our minds. Because we come out and we're going to see people in situations or see people do things. We're not going to understand why people do or say things. And it's really not our place to do that. We should be worrying about our own stuff. And we should be supportive of those others around us. Which leads me to my second favorite thing about that story of Jesus and the woman. And it doesn't get talked about much, but it's the fact of what he did when the people left. He says, I do not condemn you. He basically just said, I do not judge you. And it'd been real easy for Jesus to make his point to the people and just leave it at that. But he takes it a step farther and he tells the woman, I don't judge you. Go on your way. And I just love that. And that story is just a great example of how we should interact with other people and how we should work on our own habits and work on our own things before we worry about other people's stuff. So as we go out, I encourage you guys to keep that story in the back of your mind as you start to encounter more and more people that are coming out of situations you may not understand, you may not know what they're going through, but keep that in the back of your mind and be there to love and support them rather than to sit back on the couch like I do every Wednesday and judge people's moves. Have a great week.